G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. We're going to do another reaction video. This time, what are we doing to white people? So this should be quite interesting. This guy's called Charlie Cheon. I'll leave a description on the original video in the notes. So make sure that you go over there and subscribe to him. There's been 3 million views on this video in the first month, so it's a pretty popular video. Let's see what he says. If you like the video, please like and subscribe, and let's get stuck into it.
Doing to white people. There's been something going on for a while now that we're being told not to notice. More to the point, that we're asking white people not only to ignore, but to accept. The rising tide of racial hatred against white people. In the past decade, there has been a noticeable cultural shift in what constitutes acceptable speech as it relates to white people. Back when I was a kid, in the early 2000s, the mainstream American culture preached about respecting each other's differences and not seeing color. Nowadays, we say that not seeing color is racism, that you must see color. But the more I see how things are unfolding, the more I'm convinced that this is wrong. Back then, saying something offhanded about white people were seen as not appropriate, just as it would be to say something offhanded about people of any other race. But that soon gave way to our current times, in which there exists virtually no limit to what racial minorities can and do say about white people. I believe this is the natural outgrowth of a perverse ideology that teaches us that every societal ill, is the fault of white people, and that whatever prejudice acts we may inflict upon them does not constitute discrimination because we don't have the power to discriminate.
All right, so this reminds me a bit about feminism. So even all the great feminists of the 60s and 70s have all left feminism because it's just gone too far. Also, PC culture is just crazy. You know, any time that you go, what's the saying? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So it's exactly the same thing. Once you go too far, you get into a situation where the whole point of fighting for something goes out the window, and then you become the aggressor or the oppressor or something like that. Now, definitely, there's a history of white on coloured people, slavery, and disgusting things, but that wasn't just singled out for white people. That was everybody. Everybody 1,000 years ago was enslaving people. Where do you think when the Europeans went to Africa to get the slaves, where were they getting them from? Do you think they were in the middle of Africa rounding them up like cattle? No, the African tribes were doing that. And the reason why they were doing that because they'd had a centuries old slave trade with the Middle East. It still happens today, but nobody ever talks about that. China, China would be the most racist country in the world. If you're not a Han Chinese, and if you're a minority, you are victimized constantly and treated like a second-class citizen. What about the Mongol hordes going all over Asia and destroying, raping, enslaving people, even into Europe? South America, you've got the Aztecs, and you've got the what are the other ones called? I forget what the other ones are called. What do you think they were doing? What do you think still happens in Africa today? You don't think that there's any enslaved people in Africa? You're dreaming. I live in the Philippines, and every week there's a story about women being enslaved into sex workshops or sex online videos, mainly Chinese, doing that. Do we turn around and discriminate and say that all Chinese people are racist or slave drivers? Of course, it's a disgraceful thing that humans do. It's not just white people, it's all people. In fact, the only country that made a law against slavery was, in fact, England. England made a law in the 1200s against slavery, saying that no man can own another man. 800, well, I still know there's lots of countries in the world that still don't have laws against slavery. So, and in fact, they actually use their military to go around the world and to destroy slave ships and release them. All right? So this whole narrative that we hear about history is just bullshit. Humans are not good people. That's the fact.
And alarmingly, this is particularly pronounced in the younger generation. But is it true? Do we not have the power to discriminate? Well, let's see. First, let's take a look at the racial hatred at the interpersonal level. In today's society, it has become somewhat fashionable to think things and say things about and to white people that would not be acceptable if it was said about any other race. And we're being taught that this double standard is not wrong, that it is rather a form of empowerment. They'll attribute negative experiences that they've had with white people to their whiteness. You had an argument in line at the grocery store with a white person? They were acting entitled because they were white. A white driver cut you off when you were driving? They need to check their white privilege. Your actions, your conduct.
No, they're just wankers. So this is another thing that's been happening for a long time is that you get these liberals, and I consider myself a pretty liberal guy, that you count color of people's skins to their actions when in fact it's just their actions. You know, I don't give a shit who you are. If you cut me off in traffic, I'm gonna say something to you. All right, I don't care what color you are.
And your existence, in other words, boil down to your whiteness. And ashamedly, at one point in time, this was how I used to think as well. And beyond the people in my circle, I noticed that many people of color have this sort of blase attitude, an attitude most particularly pronounced when there are no other white people around. Things are being said not just behind closed doors, but out in the open, not just between close friends, but between complete strangers. So here's the thing. This is something that I've experienced countless times, so I know that there are other people who are experiencing it too. I know it must resonate with at least some of you. The difficulty here is that no matter how many anecdotes I share, they are just that, anecdotes. And people who refuse to believe that this is happening will just chalk it up to my experiences being a fluke. Or worse yet, they'll say I'm lying. So I've compiled some TikTok videos. I want you to take a look at the things that are being said about white people, especially by the younger generation, the kind of statements people wouldn't dare say about people of any other race.
All right, so we have to talk about TikTok. So TikTok is owned by the CCP. So this is a company that's purely run by the Chinese Communist Party. So why the hell we even have TikTok and why it's so popular? You shouldn't be on it. They're taking all your information. If you're producing content on TikTok, the Chinese government knows every single thing about you. You shouldn't be buying Huawei phones because they have technology in them as well, not only to access things that you're doing on your phone, but they're also accessing things on your internet and your computers and what you're searching for. So anything to do with China, you should steer very clear away from. And if there's anything on TikTok that criticizes the CCP, it gets scrubbed immediately, and anything that is positive gets actually voted up. So you can go onto some Chinese influencers, particularly from the CCP government, and they'll have something like 50 million followers, and yet when they release a video, there's 2 likes or 100 views. So it's the algorithm or the bullshit that they do to make it look like that they're popular is actually crap. And you can't use TikTok in China; it's illegal. You can't. They go on to all the Chinese government does is go on to free things like Facebook or YouTube and all that sort of stuff. But all of those websites and all of those social media platforms you can't use in China. They're using the freedom of the West to exploit the West and try to push this narrative. Now, also, I don't know what this guy is. I would imagine that he's from Hong Kong or he's Chinese or something like that, or Taiwanese. Um, you'll also see the racism that China has. It's disgusting what they do. Even what they've been doing just lately in the Turkish and the Syrian earthquakes, how they've been laughing at it and planting their flags in pictures even though they're not even a part of the rescue team. They're disgusting and they need to be stopped.
Take a look at what is stunningly in vogue in today's society and ask yourselves, where does this lead to years down the line?
You have a token white and you're hanging out with your friend group of color, you need to ask permission from everybody in the group to bring your white friend. Like, don't just bring them with them. I might not be in the mood to deal with white shenanigans that day. That's all I'm saying. And another thing, it feeds into their ego. Like, don't let them think they're a good white person.
Don't make them think that they're a good white person. My wife's Filipino. Both my daughters are Filipino. What? So what? They shouldn't announce that their father's white.
Ask how can they support Black and Indigenous people of color? And sometimes I really don't know what to say, but here's one easy way: just don't have babies.
Just don't have babies. All right. Okay. So here we've got. All right. So what happened to Indigenous North Americans was disgusting. Exactly the same as what happened to Indigenous South Americans. It's disgusting. But you don't think that was happening before white people arrived in 1492? Seriously? There was not a conflict in North America? What's the point of tribes then? Why wasn't there one tribe? Why are there so many different tribes? Why aren't they all the same? It just doesn't make sense. It's absolving the human nature out of something just because of the color of your skin. It's bullshit.
Single-handedly caused the white genocide that they are so afraid of. With 2.25 billion Asian women and 500 million white men, baby, it'll only take 2 generations. In 2 generations, there will no longer be any blonde-haired.
These are some things I noticed.
Alright, okay. So was she saying that all Asian women should marry white men so that they have brown babies? So to get rid of the whiteness, she needs to do a DNA course.
About white American culture, being grounded is a punishment to them. That's what they call punishment. The least grounded, least balanced, most destructive race considers being grounded a punishment? Yeah. No.
The most destructive race. Wow, that's interesting. So last time I checked, love, all the buildings and all the cities and most of I can't think of anything destructive. All the building and the improvements and everything like that has been done by all people. What would she think about Shaka Zulu? What would she think about that? What does she think about what was the disgrace that happened in, was it Somalia or between the Tutsi and the Hutus when they're walking around with machetes, killing babies in front of their mother and then beheading the mother? Does this woman know anything?
They also say really violent phrases. They say things like, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Why do we have to kill the birds? Why is everything so violent?
It's a fucking metaphor, lady. It doesn't mean that.
It's almost like one's language.
The meaning is not literally killing birds. It literally means to do 2 things at the same time, you nut job.
And phrases reflects one's nature.
So that new Jeffrey Dahmer movie on Netflix is the perfect example of the sensationalization of white violence. People have a much easier time sympathizing with white criminals than they do with black victims. People think these shows are harmless, but they actually contribute to a much bigger issue.
What the fuck is this? What do these people have in their brains? They don't care about the colour of the skin. You care about the colour of the skin. They care about the character in a show. Well, geez, have you seen a Spike Lee movie? Have you seen Narcos? Well, is it okay for Mexicans to go around and do drugs? Have you seen Killing El Chapo? They don't care about that. They're talking about the protagonist in the movie. Who cares? Have you seen what's the latest? What's the Wakanda one? No one said anything about Wakanda when you got black people killing black people. No problems about that. No problems about killing people under the water, a different race of people who are not black. Nobody said anything about the fact that the whole movie is full of black people. You know, it's just crazy. Why would Lord of the Rings have to have black people in when it's set in a European setting? But Wakanda's okay. There's no white people in Wakanda for some reason. But that's what the setting is, and that's what it is. And no one turns around and says that that's racist. And what the fuck is this lady? How many other black protagonists are there in movies? Who's the one in Pulp Fiction? Samuel L. Jackson. No one would turn around and say, "Oh, this is putting up. It's okay for Samuel L. Jackson to have violence and racism against a white person." Jesus Christ, get a life.
It contributes to the viewpoint that white people are less violent than everyone else, and white violence is something to be consumed in media.
What a load of shit. I don't want to go near any man. I don't care what colour they are. They're dangerous.
That's it.
What is with Caucasian people and like their inability to like read a fucking room? Like, y'all act like you don't understand shit because y'all be the first ones during a conversation about the Holocaust to get so mad when black people be like, you do realize that the original Jewish people were black, right? White people do not need to explain to anybody about us all bleeding red because, baby, you all are the
This woman's gone down the rabbit hole. Alright, okay. So Jewish people might have been black. We're not too sure about that, but we do know that the first humans were definitely black because we come from Africa. So, are you dissing my heritage?
people that need to learn that lesson. Clearly, history shows that you all are the people that like to pillage and eradicate, enslave and oppress, attempt to suppress greatness because you all simply don't have it. Right? Here.
Alright, so you need to go get on a plane and you need to go to West Africa and you need to go to East Africa and you need to go to South Africa and see what's happening and see whether black people have automatically, because of their blackness, solved all the problems of human nature. You need to get on a plane instead of reading some crap or getting told something at university.
Here go y'all cum goblins who don't even.
Cum goblins. Jesus Christ. What is this lady? Cum goblins who don't even live in the fucking city.
Live in the fucking city. Which, by the way, the Q-tip people are the last ones to ever talk about somebody stealing anything. Y'all wouldn't be in this country had it not been for y'all stealing it.
Well, you wouldn't be in the country either. That's a fucking big fucking thing. So you wouldn't be in the country either.
So y'all are more focused on people looting and
Did she just call white people Q-tip people? What the hell does that mean?
trying to get necessities and things that they need. And yes, a TV is a fucking necessity thing.
No, it's fucking not a necessity. A TV is not a fucking necessity.
You feel like you're better than because people are out here stealing and you would never. First of all, if you are a mayo monster.
A mayo monster. Okay, so what is that? White monster.
That is how your ancestors.
So that's called a dog whistle. Or a trope. So it's okay for her to have tropes against white people, but it's not the other way around.
Got everything from stealing. People are.
And that's a behavior that's very common among white women. You may have not intended that, but there are many white women who act exactly like you.
If you can find it in your heart this holiday season to donate to the Discriminated White Fund, you'd be helping millions.
Nothing says high protein like cicadas and cheese. Make sure you And nothing says caucasity like that right there.
What caucasity looks like. Roaming Asian grocery stores like it's an amusement park.
Explain to me.
Caucasity. What the fuck is that? So does that mean that if an Asian person is in a normal supermarket, they're just roaming around? What? They're there shopping, for Christ's sake.
Why white people don't wear shoes outdoor, but wear shoes inside.
Go to Africa, see how many people wear shoes. Come to the Philippines, see how many people wear shoes. Why are white people like this? Well, there's a definite white people can't dance. They're terrible with rhythm because we don't learn it. But we're all right at other stuff.
White women, we are inherently a danger in spaces for Black, Indigenous, and other people of color simply by existing.
All right, so this is another phenomenon, whatever, I can't say that word, where you've got white people complaining about them being white. Why? Why the hell would you want to do that? You're born white. You don't have a choice. It's not like you go down the doctor and you can change. That's what you are. Just be a good person, for fuck's sake. And these crazy Karen women, they are fucking lunatics.
It's white cis men who are part of the far-right
White cis men.
ideology of fascism. That is a true threat and the terrorism to this country.
If BIPOC stand in...
All right, so here we go again. So you just saw there, that's a feminist take on things. Now, things change in society over time. What was acceptable 100 years ago might not be acceptable now. But what was acceptable 1,000 years ago, we don't even do now. So things take time to change, and it's up to the society to make the laws and to change what we think is appropriate for the time, for the eon, for the era. Okay? Now, it's been 120 years since women have got the vote. I treat my wife, like a normal person. I want her to succeed. I love her. I support her. My children are both girls. I do everything I possibly can to teach them and to make sure that they are treated properly. Now, that's maybe not what happened in the past, but that's what happened in the past. But that's not what's happening now. Now we're getting to a point where women really want more power and trying to change laws to gain more power, which is exactly what they've been trying to say has been happening to them.
In the street and scream at the top of their lungs, I hate all white people. I want all white people to go die. Die, white devil, you cracker bitch. That's still not racism.
Yes, it is, darling. Right, so I've been learning a lot here, and so cracker. So I remember watching a TV show in the 70s called Love Thy Neighbour. It wouldn't be allowed on today's TV. Some of you guys might remember it. It was about a white guy and a black guy that lived next to each other. All right, it was pretty racial, but it was racial both ways. So I forget what the white guy used to call the black guy, but the black guy used to call the white guy honky, which is a, what are they called? Pejorative? I don't know. Anyway, it's basically a word that's used for people with big noses. But it wasn't done in like malice. It was done for humor. And I think a lot of people have forgotten about having a thick skin. Yeah, I walk around the Philippines. 50% of the Filipinos treat me amazing. 50% talk behind my back. I know, I can hear it. I can hear when they're saying, oh, this white guy, look at him, he thinks he's the best and lots of stuff. But then on the flip side, I also get like treated a lot better when I go to a restaurant and lots of stuff because they think I'm rich, even though I'm poor. So there's good and bad in all people. And this constant looking at people's skin color is crazy. We need to start looking at people just as people. If you're a good person, you get treated well. If you're a bad person, you get treated like shit. That's how it should be.
Not one of the good white people. Stop separating us from the bad white people. Don't sit out there in comments and say, we don't claim them. We are them. We are the ones shooting up schools.
Well, actually, the last two mass shootings in America were Asians. So this didn't age well.
We are the ones raping people, the ones enslaving.
Jesus Christ, we're the ones raping people. Are you kidding me? Go to Africa, love. Go to Africa.
People.
And I'll say it. I hate being white. Which means I'm one of the good ones.
Ah, so that's projection, alright. That one is, what do they call that one? Virtual signaling. I hate being myself, so therefore I'm a good person. No, really.
All white people are inherently racist.
Yeah.
Can you be racist against white people?
Based off of the definition of racism, yes, but it's not gonna hurt them and hurt their opportunities like it does people of color.
While technically you can, it's not like an issue.
You can't oppress the oppressor.
It helps you sleep at night. I'm racist to white people, and I'm proud of it.
Why do people not understand that you can't be racist to white people? It's impossible. The system is not set up that way. You can insult white people, but it is not racism.
If you go to China, and if you've been to China in the last 3 years, they actually have restaurants that have signs that says no white people. Okay, literally. And they won't let you in. So I don't know what this lady's talking about. And not only white people, but minorities and Christians, anyone who, like I said, anyone in China who's not Han is victimized. And you should see what the Chinese people say and do every single day about Japanese people. They have TV shows that are the most racist things you've ever seen in your life. They have them playing in every restaurant, every hotel foyer. There's all this crazy propaganda where the Chinese people are the best in the world and Japanese people are treated like molesters. And if that's not racism, I don't know what is. And it's state-sanctioned racism. And I also love that this chick, she's in America and she has the right to say whatever the hell she likes. And this is what she has to come up with. She couldn't do this in her own country. She couldn't say anything in her own country. She would be arrested and disappeared. But because she lives in a good place like America, she can do this and get away with it.
Calling a white person a tub of mayonnaise and like a flower-looking ass, that's not racist.
You went all the way to Africa to physically take black people from their homes, shove them in on boats where a lot of them got diseases and died, told them where they could sit on a bus, told them which schools they could go to, which water fountains they could use, which bathrooms they could use, and that's sugarcoating it. Those are just terms. I'm not even describing all the disgusting things that happen. And
all right, so here's another CCP shill. All right, so these Chinese people are actually paid, so they get about 50 cents for this. So the Chinese government pays them to do this to try to spin up racism or division in America and other countries. So this lady obviously hasn't heard of the Uyghurs, where currently there's about 10,000 Uyghurs in re-education camps. She doesn't care about that. She doesn't care about the fact that the Chinese government is victimizing Hongkonese people. She doesn't care about the fact that they're physically targeting her own people in other countries with their soft power techniques. And she doesn't even know her own history about what happened in China for the last 5,000 years. She has no idea about it. But she's Han Chinese, and she thinks that she knows everything. That's what happened.
they don't even want revenge. They are letting you guys skate by asking for equal rights. That's it? And you're still saying no? They are not as angry as they should be. Y'all are getting off easy and you're still saying no? Fuck you.
Some people look at that and chalk it up to the grumblings of the powerless. That's the idea that when you have a power disparity, the less powerful sort of has this general society given leeway to complain about the more powerful. The villagers complaining about their king doesn't have the same ring as the king making snide and crude comments about the villagers. But that's not what's going on here. Because although certain segments of our society refuse to believe this, even as evidence mount before our very eyes, in one side of the political aisle, people of color actually have greater power than white people. That is the truth that is not being acknowledged by the people that need to hear it, because this gets in the way of them wielding that power in the way they want.
Right, so this is not a new thing. So I'm from Australia. For years and years and years, there's been positive racism towards Aboriginal people, which I agree with. I don't think it's a bad thing. But if you're an Aboriginal person, you definitely get more benefit for just being Aboriginal. You don't have to have a higher score when you go to university. There are quotas for percentages to work in the government. Again, I agree with it. I think it should happen that way, but not to the point where everybody else is victimized. I also love these Asian people, not this guy, all those other ones. Asian people have it so good. They have the best education, they have so much better outcomes than everyone else, and they act like they're victims, which is a joke. Asian people earn about 20% more than every other race on earth, and it's just crazy. They're just playing the victim card.
Malignantly. I've heard from somewhere that politics is downstream of culture, and I think that is certainly correct. We have a mainstream culture that tells us it's okay to hold prejudice and hateful view of white people, and our politics is then infused with this energy, and we see active, overt, and on the books racial discrimination of white people that those who are perpetuating this hatred is refusing to see as discrimination. They'll say, no, 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 this is remediation. These are the same people who are making tenuous arguments that some of our race-neutral laws discriminate against people of color. And this is certainly evidence that in one side of the political aisle, people of color have more power than white people. Because if we didn't have the power, we wouldn't be able to put into place practices and policies that does this. That's what power is. Things like Minneapolis local government agreeing to a contract with the teachers union that says white teachers must be fired first. New York City's government enacting a policy of having white seniors.
Yeah, so that's not right, but I wouldn't say that's across the board. But that is a pretty stupid thing to say. Imagine if there was a law saying that women got laid off first. New guidelines say whites may not be eligible for antibodies and antivirals while non-whites are. But that's a Wall Street Journal. They just make shit up.
Go to the back of the line on life-saving COVID treatment. A college professor that says white people should be killed and facing no repercussions. Cornell University banning white people from rock climbing lessons. One of many.
So I don't really care about that, to be quite honest. If you want to go rock climbing with your Asian mates, well, fuck, what's the problem? There's no problem with that. I don't have any problem with that. You know, if I went to a violin club and everyone's Asian, and they turn around and go, "We don't like you here," well, tough shit. Okay, I'll go find something else.
Many instances of liberal colleges doing the utmost to exclude and ostracize white students. BIPOC-only events equal no whites.
I don't even know what BIPOC means. What the hell does that mean?
But they don't have the guts to say that, even though that is what that is. That's what makes this different than the mere grumblings of the common villager. The villagers have surrounded the palace, demanding Marie Antoinette's head. The power dynamics have shifted. That is a fact. Progressive media outlets do not cover these stories. Some people out there have no idea that this is going on. But worse, some others out there know but agree with what's going on. And for those people...
It's just not this about people's skin. It's everything. The younger generation think they know everything, and they don't actually know what they're doing. They're pushing everything so far. Education is just going down the chute. You know, teaching about all this crap instead of teaching about science or teaching about mathematics, and forget about your personal feelings for a change and just worry about being a good person. That's what they should be teaching.
To convince themselves that this is not racial discrimination, they play mind tricks and word games. They use phrases and talking points like punching up, you can't be racist to white people, you can't oppress the oppressor, meaning I'm acting oppressively, but I've designated you as the oppressor, so everything goes. Or Abraham X. Kennedy's infamous words, the only way to remedy past discrimination is current discrimination. Or when people say things like, what we're doing to white people is not racism because racism is prejudice plus power and we don't have the power. They use all this mind-bending apparatus to delude themselves into believing what they're doing faces no moral quandary. But in the back of their minds, perhaps in their subconscious minds, is racial revenge. We experienced it, you experienced it too. See how you like it. That people of color are using our newfound power to act this way and then pretend like none of this is going on leads me to believe that we would have done the same thing that white people did were we to be in their historical position. Because such acts have its roots in human nature, not white people nature.
Exactly. And not only that, you did do it. This is not something that is not real. This happened in the past as well for all races. It's human nature. It's a disgraceful part of human nature, but it's human nature. All right? It's that simple. And it's still happening today. There's more people in slavery today than there is 1,000 years ago. Today. And I don't hear all these social justice warriors fucking complaining about that. I hear all these women complaining about feminism, but they don't give a shit about women who live in third world countries. They don't give a shit about women who live in Arab, Muslim countries. They don't care about that. They only care about what they've got, which is their privilege. And that's all races, not just white people.
And one can only imagine what might happen in the coming decades when the demographics of the US will have shifted such that white people will no longer constitute the majority, when the younger generation you've just seen have graduated from elite schools and hold positions of power in our institutions, our government, corporations, entertainment, news media, and so forth, how they might, in wielding the levers of society, be able to rationalize, using their adult brain, the hatred that was embedded in their minds during their adolescence. What we're seeing is just the beginning. To the white people who are watching, I just want to say, you are not under pressure.
Alright, okay. So anyway, there we go. This is filtering into our everyday life. Movies are absolutely destroyed because of this attitude. You can't have a white protagonist anymore. They're always the evil guy. The women in movies now are so pathetic. They don't learn anything. They're automatically better than everyone else. You can't even have a straight actor playing a gay actor, which is just crazy, which means that you also can't have a gay actor playing a straight actor, which is even worse. So these things that they're doing go further than just what happens on the street. Advertising, you can't advertise anything anymore unless you've got an Indian person, an Asian person, and a black person. I've noticed that in Australia, advertising just treats men like shit. Every single ad has the man as an absolute fucking idiot. So yeah, it's parading as, what's the word? Virtuosity, but in actual fact, it's doing the opposite. So anyway, there's my take on it. Like I said, go check this guy out. He's obviously did a bit of his own research and knows a bit about history, and sounds pretty common sense to me. But if you like the video, please like and subscribe. Go to him and like and subscribe as well, and we'll catch you in the next one. See you then.